What is going on YouTube? It is your boy MrBaboon back with a reaction video. This time we have Timeline 1977. I'm excited to watch this, react to it, all that good stuff. We've been learning a lot of stuff about like what happened in the 70s. I'm definitely excited to learn more about it. You know what I'm saying? So real fast, you guys can find the video and the channel link down below in the description. If you guys want to check it out, check it out. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right in to the reaction.
1977 made it clear from the word go that a whole lot of...
Fix me here. I need a haircut. I need to go get my hair cut. I need to go get a cut soon. Getting long.
Things were about to change. A newly elected president made dramatic moves to heal an ailing nation. One of the biggest icons of the 20th century was laid to rest, and snow fell in Miami. Like actual snow, not the kind of snow Crockett and Tubbs normally dealt with. It was a year of dramatic debuts, escapes, and departures. And we don't mean people coming and going from the roller rink. Okay, we don't just mean that. It was also the year that audiences around the world were first transported to a galaxy far, far away, and the relationship between grown adults and action figures would never be the same again. We're going to talk about the news, culture, sports and entertainment, and all that was weird in the 70s. This is Timeline. Get ready to hitch a ride to Toshi's station to pick up some power converters, because this episode is all about 1977. But before we get started, be sure to subscribe to the Weird History channel and let us know in the comments below your all-time favorite 70s jam. Now fire up that Atari, because this is 1977. Starting the year would make us all mad as hell as actor Peter Finch passed away on the 14th. Finch had appeared on The Tonight Show the night before he succumbed to a heart attack in his hotel. Later that year, Finch would become the first actor to win a posthumous Oscar, nabbing a gold statue for his role in Network, which was the movie he had been on The Tonight Show to promote.
My dear Tattoo, when each guest is paying $50,000 for a 3-day stay on Fantasy Island, he or she deserves miracles.
Snow fell in Miami for the first time in recorded history on January 19th, as an Arctic cold front swept through the Sunshine State. Previously, the furthest south snow had ever fallen in Florida was near Fort Myers, back in 1899. So yeah, it was kind of a big deal. Speaking of firsts, President Jimmy Carter pardoned hundreds of thousands of American men who evaded the draft during the Vietnam War in his first month in office. Carter had promised to pardon draft dodgers as part of his presidential campaign, arguing that it would help move the country forward and heal the wounds of the divisive and costly conflict.
Oh, no, that's your African name. Must give you a new name. Must say, you name Toby. Hey, what's the matter with you? Cut me loose. Kunta Kinte.
Moving into February, disasters struck on the 4th when 4 cars of a loop elevated train in Chicago jumped the track in the middle of rush hour. The accident claimed the lives of 11 commuters and injured 200 others. Over 40 years later, it remains the worst elevated train disaster in the history of the Chicago.
So was that like a movie right here? Hang on.
You name Toby. Hey, what's the matter with you? Cut me loose.
I think it might have been a show or a movie. I don't know. I've never seen it before.
Moving into February, disasters struck on the 4th when 4 cars of a loop elevated train in Chicago jumped the track in the middle of rush hour. The accident claimed the lives of 11 commuters and injured 200 others. Over 40 years later, it remains the worst elevated train disaster in the history of the Chicago Transit Authority. Disaster of a more artistic sort struck that same day when Fleetwood Mac released their groundbreaking album, Rumors. Recorded over an 11-month period that saw the band's 5 members get really into illicit substances and implode their personal relationships. But it was all worth it for music lovers. Rumors went on to top the Billboard charts for 31 weeks, score an Album of the Year Grammy, and sell more than 40 million copies, making it one of the best-selling albums ever produced. Moving into the world of sports, boxer Sugar Ray Leonard made his professional debut on the 5th of February, stepping into the ring with Louis the Bull Vega at the Civic Center in Baltimore. However, Leonard had won a gold medal in the Olympics as a light welterweight the previous year, so he wasn't exactly a novice. He defeated Vega by unanimous decision, beginning a 20-year career that would earn him the reputation as one of the greatest pound-for-pound fighters of all time. 3 days later, adult magazine publisher Larry Flynt was sentenced to 7 years on obscenity and organized crime charges, the organized crime being the distribution of Flynt's Hustler magazine. The sentence was overturned, and Flynt was released after serving only 6 days in jail. The trial was one of several brushes with the law Flynt had due to the graphic content of his magazine, and would eventually get a movie in 1996's The People vs. Larry Flynt, starring Woody Harrelson as Flynt. The real-life Flynt has a cameo as Judge William Morrissey, the man who handed him the 7-year prison sentence. Just over 3 weeks later, Pistol Pete Maravich set an NBA record on February 25th, when he scored 68 points against the New York Knicks, the most ever for a guard at the time. Maravich's record-setting game was played before the three-point line existed, which makes it all the more impressive. To this day, Maravich is one of only 8 NBA players to score 68 points or more during a single game. The first killer whale born in captivity came into this world on the 28th. Marineland of the Pacific's star attraction, Corky 2, unexpectedly gave birth to a calf, but sadly the baby only lived for 11 days. And while Marineland of the Pacific closed its doors for good in 1987, Corky 2 is still alive and kicking, or flipping, I suppose. At approximately 57 years of age, she is the oldest living orca in captivity. Moving into March, Bank of America adopted the name Visa for its credit card program on the 1st. Previously, the card had been known as the Bank AmeriCard, and was a joint program with several other financial institutions. Why Visa? The company's founders believed the word was simple enough to be recognized in any language. That prediction turned out to be true. Today, Visa is the second largest bank card organization in the world. Hey, it's everywhere you want to be. The next day, Jay Leno made his first appearance on The Tonight Show on the 2nd of March. Leno's stand-up featured observational one-liners about current events, punctuated by some playful crowd work. All elements that would become staples of his opening monologues 15 years later, when Leno took over hosting duties from Carson on May 25th, 1992.
Back in 2022, I lost 2 very important people in my life. Big figures. It really wasn't until February.
We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Chuck Connors, and this is Tin Can Alley. An exciting new electronic target game that truly tests your marksmanship from as far away as 25 feet.
Good evening.
Good morning.
Good Lord, is it morning?
Yes, it is. And if you don't mind a stupid question, who are you?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm Jack. Jack Tripper.
Elvis Presley departed for his final tour on the 23rd of March. Despite being in poor health, the king of rock and roll embarked on an aggressive national tour just 1 month after a series of dates throughout the South. The shows were marred by Elvis's declining condition. Disappointed fans and music journalists alike remarked that the singer was lethargic and difficult to understand. He would have to be hospitalized partway through the tour and have to cancel several dates before playing his final show on June 26th at the Market Square Arena in Indianapolis, Indiana. 1 day after Elvis left for his final string of performances, Lily Tomlin became the first woman to appear in a solo Broadway show. Appearing Nightly, which Tomlin co-wrote with Jane Wagner, debuted at the Biltmore Theater on the 24th. She would go on to win a Tony Award for her work on the show. 2 Boeing 747s collided on the runway at Tenerife Airport in Spain on March 27th. The crash occurred due to a miscommunication that caused one aircraft to initiate takeoff while the other was still in its path. The collision claimed the lives of 583 people, making it the worst accident in aviation history. Returning to sports, the Seattle Mariners kicked off the month of April by playing their first game ever on the 6th. The expansion team was added to the American League as the result of a lawsuit that originated when the Seattle Pilots were purchased and relocated to Milwaukee by Bud Selig. The team became the Brewers, one of only 6 teams in Major League Baseball that has yet to win a World Series, along with the Mariners. It was a month of firsts for Major League Baseball, as the Toronto Blue Jays played their first game the very next day. Initially one of two Canadian-based teams, today the Blue Jays are the only organization in the MLB located outside the United States, after the Montreal Expos became the Washington Nationals in 2005. Sorry, Canada. Author Alex Haley won the Pulitzer Prize on April 18th for his work on the iconic novel Roots. A fictionalized version of Haley's own family history, the best-selling novel was adapted into a record-breaking miniseries earlier the same year.
Hi.
Hi. Oh, hi. Hi.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Well, bye.
The beloved musical Annie opened for the first time at New York City's Elvin Theater 3 days later, on the 21st. Based on the long-running comic strip, Little Orphan Annie, the musical ran for a record-setting 6 years, scoring 7 Tony Awards. The musical has been adapted several times, most notably into the 1982 John Huston film featuring Albert Finney and Carol Burnett. Moving into the summer, volatile screen legend Joan Crawford passed away on the 10th of May in her apartment in New York City. One of the biggest stars of Hollywood's golden age, the controversial actress had become a recluse in her later years and had withdrawn almost entirely from the public eye. Crawford's acrimonious relationship with her children, particularly her eldest daughter, led to the infamous tell-all book Mommy Dearest, later adapted into a film starring Faye Dunaway. A young DJ named Howard Stern began broadcasting at WRNW in New York on Friday the 13th. Stern had initially served as a part-time host, filling in during the holiday season the previous year, but took over a 4-hour midday shift 6 days a week. It was the beginning of Stern's career as a notorious shock jock, which is still going strong nearly 50 years later.
The problem is that Coors beer, you take that east of Texas, and that's bootlegging.
You don't believe you're just a little bit scared?
That's great psychology. Why don't you just say something bad about my mother?
A little short for a stormtrooper.
I have seen Star Wars.
Oh, the uniform.
I've seen all the stuff.
I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you.
You're who?
I'm here to rescue you. I've got your R2 unit. I'm here with Ben Kenobi.
Ben Kenobi, where is he?
Come on.
Amateur mountain climber George Willig made history on May 26th when he climbed the South Tower of the World Trade Center in New York City using specialized equipment he developed specifically for the climb. The completely unsanctioned stunt took nearly 4 hours, and Willig was arrested the instant he reached the top of the tower. However, the stunt had captured national attention and made Willig a celebrity, earning him several television appearances and the nickname The Human Fly. He was ultimately let off with a slap on the wrist, a fine of 1 penny per floor he'd climbed, for a grand total of $1.10. Punk band The Sex Pistols released their second single, God Save the Queen, the next day. The song, which contains incendiary lyrics about Queen Elizabeth II and monarchies in general, and was pointedly released during the Queen's Silver Jubilee, was immediately banned by the BBC and many other radio stations in the United Kingdom. But it wasn't just radio stations that were offended. Singer Johnny Rotten and drummer Paul Cook were both attacked on separate occasions by random Brits enraged by the song. That kind of seems pretty punk. God Save the Queen holds the dubious distinction of being one of the most banned records in the history of music. Speaking of notoriety, James Earl Ray, the man convicted of assassinating Martin Luther King Jr., escaped from Tennessee's Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary on the 10th of June. Ray fled the prison with 6 other inmates, but he was quickly recaptured 3 days later after being tracked down by bloodhounds. It was actually the second time Ray had broken out of jail. He'd previously escaped from the Missouri State Penitentiary in 1967 by hiding in a bread truck, where he'd been serving a 20-year sentence for armed robbery, and was still on the run when he took the civil rights leader's life. Just over 2 weeks later, the Supreme Court ruled in a 5-4 decision allowing lawyers to advertise their services. That probably seems weird, because most of us can't conceive of a world in which we don't have the commercial jingle of our hometown personal injury law firm memorized. But prior to that ruling, lawyers were bound by an antiquated Bar Association tradition that argued they should build up their clientele through good work and word of mouth. Oh, those are antiquated ideals. Billboards, bus ads, and local TV spots haven't been the same since.
Hounds of justice!
Vladimir Nabokov kicked off the month of July by, well, kicking off. The Russian-American novelist and author of the controversial 1955 novel Lolita passed away on the 2nd at age 78 at the Montreux Palace Hotel in Switzerland. He had been in the middle of working on a new novel titled The Original of Laura, which was published in its incomplete form in 2009.
007 Triple X. Bond, what do you think you're doing?
Keeping the British end up, sir.
I think also.
We'll be right.
Snowpiercer. We circled the globe for signs of life.
I think I had seen.
Holy
shit.
We.
Right back.
2020, 2019.
I drink Dr. Pepper and I'm proud. I'm part of an original crowd. And if you look around these days, there seems to be a Dr. Pepper craze. I'm a pepper, he's a pepper, she's a pepper, we're a pepper. Wouldn't you like to be a pepper too? I'm a pepper, he's a pepper, she's a pepper. If you drink Dr. Pepper, you're a pepper too. Be a pepper, drink Dr. Pepper. Be a pepper, drink.
Definitely a commotion.
The CIA unwillingly revealed its involvement in mind control experiments after 20,000 pages of documents were discovered. Following a Freedom of Information Act request on July 15th. CIA Director Richard Helms had previously ordered the destruction of all documents related to the project, known as MK Ultra. But this cache of documents had been misfiled or hidden, leading to their discovery. The project involved the study of the effects of different drugs and procedures on humans, with the goal of identifying ways to make subjects more pliable during interrogation. MK Ultra has subsequently been the basis of several conspiracy theories, and 1 or 2 TV shows as well. Powering up the month of August, President Carter established the U.S. Department of Energy on the 4th. The move was intended to help America recover from the unprecedented energy crisis of the 1970s by promoting energy development, conservation, and regulation, and decreasing the nation's dependence on fossil fuels, as many Americans were still feeling the effects of the 1973 oil embargo. The DOE was tasked with researching new energy technologies, as well as supporting nuclear weapons research. So, you know, it wasn't all about putting solar panels on the White House. 6 days later, David Berkowitz, a.k.a. the Son of Sam, was arrested while leaving his home in Yonkers. The 24-year-old Berkowitz had terrorized New York City for an entire year by ambushing unsuspecting victims, usually couples, and opening fire on them with a .44 caliber handgun. Berkowitz was convicted and sentenced to 6 life sentences. 5 days later, a notorious Nazi escaped from custody, hidden inside a suitcase. Herbert Kappler, the head of the SS in Rome during World War II, was carried out of an Italian hospital by his wife. Kappler had been serving a life sentence in a military prison in Italy after being convicted by a war tribunal, but had been transferred to the hospital after he was diagnosed with cancer. Because of his rapidly declining condition, the West German government declined to extradite him back to Italy, and he succumbed to his illness just 6 months after his escape. No word on whether he was carried out of his home in a fabulous luggage set. 1 day later, the king of rock and roll passed away at his home in Memphis, Tennessee. Elvis Presley was found unresponsive on the floor of his Graceland mansion, having succumbed to a heart attack at the age of 42. He was buried on the grounds of Graceland, which remains open to this day as a tourist attraction. A more welcome departure occurred 4 days later, when NASA launched the Voyager 2 probe on August 20th towards Jupiter, Neptune, and Uranus. To date, Voyager 2 is the only craft to visit the 2 furthest planets of our solar system, and it's still functioning. It left the solar system in 2018, and despite a few hiccups, it remains in contact with Earth as it continues on its interstellar mission. Comedy icon Groucho Marx delivered his final punchline on the 19th at age 86. One of the most recognizable stars of his era, thanks to his trademark eyebrows and mustache and perpetual cigar, Groucho's rapid-fire delivery and dizzying wordplay helped make the Marx Brothers a household name.
Hello, I must be going.
Bridging the gap into September, President Carter signed the Panama Canal Treaties on the 7th. The treaties would turn over control of the canal to Panama after 1999, but also guarantee the United States the right to defend neutral access to the canal in perpetuity. The decision was controversial. Many prominent political figures, including future President Ronald Reagan, viewed it as relinquishing a valuable asset to a potential enemy. But the treaties were upheld, and jurisdiction of the canal was handed over to Panama on December 31st, 1999. 3 days later, France sent the last person to the guillotine when Hamida Jandoubi was executed on the 10th. Jandoubi had been convicted in the abduction and slaying of Elisabeth Bousquet earlier that year. His sentence marked the final time the guillotine was used for capital punishment in France. 4 years later, France would outlaw the death penalty altogether. Atari released their first game console, the Atari 2600, on September 11th. Initially called Atari VCS, or Video Computer System, the console quickly became the dominant force in home gaming and would remain at the top for the next several years, until a certain mustachioed plumber came along. Huh?
You almost closed the book.
Stunned. It was beautiful. Come on, admit it.
Welcome aboard the Love Boat. The what?
Oh, that's just a little nickname we have. Doctor, in my presence, don't ever call this ship a love boat.
The supersonic Concorde jet made its first landing in New York City on October 20th, touching down at 11:12 a.m. at Kennedy International Airport. The jet took off from Toulouse, France, making the 3,800-mile trip across the Atlantic Ocean in 3 hours and 45 minutes. Despite the appeal of a high-speed transatlantic flight, the Concorde was met with stiff opposition from New York City residents, who objected to the incredibly high decibel levels the plane generated during takeoff. It's tough to argue with them. The plane generated actual sonic booms, like a Street Fighter II character. Speaking of planes, 3 members of the Southern rock band Leonard Skinner perished when their chartered Convair 240 crashed in Mississippi that same day. The band was flying from South Carolina to Louisiana for a show when their plane ran out of fuel and had to make an emergency landing. The airline collided with the tree line and broke apart. Lead vocalist Ronnie Van Zant, guitarist Steve Gaines, and Gaines' sister, backup vocalist Cassie Gaines, died instantly, along with both pilots and the band's tour manager. Popular singer and Oscar-winning actor Bing Crosby crooned his final song on October 14th. One of the most popular entertainers of the first half of the 20th century, Crosby collapsed on a golf course in Spain after playing 18 holes, succumbing to a heart attack at age 74. President Carter raised the U.S. minimum wage to $3.35 an hour on the first day of November, just in time for Black Friday. The new figure was $1.05 higher than the previous minimum wage of $2.30, an increase of nearly 50%. That's no small potatoes. Or peanuts. You know, because we're talking about Jimmy Carter.
Okay, listen. I like it. We could dance together. That's it. We could just dance together and nothing more, nothing personal. I don't want you coming on to me.
Why not?
Because I don't think guys like you anymore, for one thing.
English folk musician Cat Stevens converted to Islam on December 23rd, leaving the music industry behind him for the next 2 decades. Following a near-death experience the previous year and what he later described as a lifelong search for spiritual meaning, Stevens subsequently changed his name to Yusuf Islam. With the exception of a charity concert in Wembley Stadium in 1979, he did not perform again for 25 years. Arguably one of the most famous entertainers to have ever lived, Charlie Chaplin passed away on Christmas Day at age 88. The silent film star dominated Hollywood in its early years, but he left the United States after a series of controversies and permanently relocated to Switzerland in the 1950s. The events of his life would later be dramatized in the 1992 film Chaplin, directed by Richard Attenborough, the guy from Jurassic Park, and starring Robert Downey Jr.
I need to watch it.
Infamous serial killer Ted Bundy escaped from prison on the second-to-last day of 1977, climbing out through the ceiling of his Colorado jail cell.
Dang.
Bundy had been awaiting trial and had already escaped once before, leaping from a courthouse library in Aspen back in June. However, while he was quickly apprehended that first time, he would stay on the run for nearly 3 months, during which time his victim count would continue to rise. And so 1977 came to a close with the curtain call of a tramp and the most notorious predator in history on the loose. 1978 was pulling up late to the party, riding shotgun with a guy you wouldn't like when he's angry, a historic blizzard, and one of the most infamous accidents in the history of televised stunts. But that's next year. Coming soon, 1978. So what do you think? What was the biggest moment of 1977? Let us know in the comments below.
Hopefully you guys did enjoy. You guys can find the video and the channel link down below in the description. If you guys want to check it out for you guys self, you guys can. I think that's going to do it for this video right here. I did enjoy it. There was a lot of stuff I didn't know about or anything. You know what I mean? So let me know what you guys thought. What you guys' thoughts are. I'll see you guys in the next video. Positivity is key, motivation is key, happiness is key. I'll see you guys in the next one. Real fast, let's get a nice little hit for this. So, that was going to do it for this video. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. I'll see you guys in the next one. You guys stay safe. Watch out for each other. See you guys in the next one.